Well, 2020 has come to a close, and that means we are now ready for another list week where we look back at the year in country music. We're going to be looking at the best albums, then we're going to do the best hit country songs, then we're going to do more of the best obscure country songs, and then maybe we'll do a worst video, but I sort of hate doing those, even though there was some bad country music this year. But today we're not talking about bad country music, we are talking about great country music, and in fact, the best country albums of 2020. These are going to be albums that come from across the country music spectrum, whether that's in Texas or that's in Nashville or it's in Appalachia, whether these artists are independent or they're on a major label. These are just the 10 best country albums of the year, according to me. And yes, I know that this is just one man's opinion. It's not any better than your opinion. I just happen to be a guy with a YouTube channel. And I think I reviewed about 80 here on the channel. But what's really crazy is that is still probably a tiny percentage of the amount of music that came out this year, just because there's no way someone can listen to all of it. But let's lay down some ground rules and then get into the list. I'm not going to be mentioning cover albums, tribute albums, EPs, or sort of these quarantine special projects of redone versions of old songs that a bunch of artists did. So that means that amazing albums like Sturgill Simpson's Cutting Grass Volume 2, Josh Turner's Country State of Mind, Parker McCollum's Hollywood Gold, or Mike and the Moonpies' tribute to Gary Stewart, all those albums are great, but they're also not going to be on this list. If you're ever interested, every album that I listen to, I add a couple songs, if it's a good album, onto my favorite country music playlist on Spotify. That's always linked down below, and it features all the albums that you are about to see in this video. Without further ado, let's jump into the top 10 best country albums of the year. At number 10 is Hailey Whitters' The Dream.
I'm 12 years into a 10-year town. I'm too far in.
This is a songwriter's album from a Nashville artist that's been cutting her teeth for a long time in Music City. The kind of standout track that got everyone's attention from this project is called 10-Year Town. People often say it takes 10 years to make it in Nashville. And she's saying, man, I'm already past the expiration date, but she's not at all. She's got cuts from some of the biggest and best songwriters in all of country music. People like Lori McKenna, Brent Cobb. There's even a Chris Stapleton song, if you enjoyed Devil Always Made Me Think Twice. That's on this album too, her cover of it. And lyric nerds would love this album, whether there is just the good details of something like face cream at Walgreens on Janice at the Hotel Bar, or if it's the wordplay of a title like Red Wine and Blue.
I gave up on you, calling.
Where she is drunk and feeling bad about a relationship. There's something here for everybody, and Hailey delivers it with an immediacy. She has a really plaintive voice. I really also like the song Loose Strings and the rhythmic changes in it, as well as Heartland, about needing your heart to land, but she's also reflecting on being from Iowa, and that's where her heart lands. There's that great wordplay that I like. At number 9 is American Aquarium's Lamentations.
I'm in it for the long haul. I'm here until the work's done.
American Aquarium is one of my absolute favorite bands, and I loved their last album, Things Change, and I think BJ Barham, the lead singer of the band, is going to go down in the books as one of the best songwriters of kind of the independent side of country music ever. And part of what makes him so compelling is his own journey with alcoholism has led to him being super honest with himself, super willing to name problems and put them there in his music. There's a song on this record called How Wicked I Was that reveals the harshness with which he judges himself and holds himself in contempt, but often he also points the finger kind of at the world too. There's a song on here called A Better South that's very critical of kind of the traditions that might be steeped in his words, kind of racism or backwards thinking in the South, but he believes in something better. What I like about the way that BJ Barham approaches politics is that he has that dual nature. It's never just him pointing a finger, he's always pointing one at himself too. That's what I always say, and it makes his music really listenable because he's kind of an equal opportunity offender in that way. And he's also a very hopeful person. Shooter Jennings did an amazing job producing this record. The best song on the record for my money is one that's just a straight up American Aquarium driving kind of southern rock song called The Luckier You Get that is about working hard.
The harder you work, the luckier you get.
At number 8 is the self-titled album by Tessy Lou Williams.
A pathway of teardrops will show you.
I had never heard of Tessy Lou Williams at the start of this year, but when I found this album, I was astounded. It is so beautiful and it just feels pure. It feels expensive. It has all of the instruments that make country music feel so special and so different, but kind of like the mountainy, bluegrassy shimmer of mandolins and fiddles and steel. There's a wonderment about the sound of this album and just kind of a stark purity to Tessy Lou's voice that makes it irresistible. Honestly, this is just a great album to feel sad to because there are some gorgeous ballad moments, whether it's her cover of Why Do I Still Want You?
Why do I still want you?
Or songs like Someone Lonely and Pathway of Teardrops. You're going to get this really old school Patsy Cline-ish moment from this record. Tessy Lou hails from Montana, and my favorite song on the record actually references that directly. It's called Mountain Time in Memphis.
'Cause it's still mountain time in Memphis.
Number 7 goes to the band The Wilder Blue and their album Hill Country.
Does an eagle feel when he's flying?
Wilder Blue is a band out of Texas that features an artist named Zane Williams that you may be familiar with, but this is actually their debut album, and damn, it is good. I would not have known this record had Luke Combs not tweeted about it, and I'm really glad that he did because I listened and listened and listened. I was very surprised to find this one of my most listened to albums of the year, but also I'm not surprised at all because it's just the harmonies on this. I can't get enough of them.
When our motor cut him down, he lay groaning on the ground, and we could not.
There are moments on songs like The Eagle that remind me of Zac Brown, but with the voice of maybe Alan Jackson. Oh my gosh, yes. That song, As She's Walking Away, is a perfect comparison to this album. The harmonies on that song, kind of the lushness of the production is totally matched in energy on this record. The Eagle makes me feel hopeful and full and like I am soaring. But the standout song I think here is one called Dixie Darling.
Dixie, darling, did you find what you were after?
It gets into a relationship that wasn't meant to be, an unplanned pregnancy. It feels both romantic and wistful, but also really regretful. And it has this huge build, and it's one of the standout songs of the year. You might see it later this week on a list. Give the Wilder Blue a chance. If you have any trouble finding information on them, they were called Hill Country at the beginning of the year, but they changed their name. So just look up Hill Country or the Wilder Blue. My number 6 album is Brandy Clark's Your Life is a Record.
Just kiss me like kerosene and let the whole damn thing.
The first word that comes to mind when I think about this record is actually unusual, because I remember just so clearly thinking that the instrumentation on this record felt really different. Jay Joyce is known for his funkier, rockier production style, but he went a lot quirkier on this record.
So take a long walk off a real short pier.
I remember hearing a flute. I remember on the song Who You Thought I Was questioning, am I hearing a harpsichord right now? And to be honest, I don't know if I was. But if you're talking about Brandy Clark, you got to be talking about the songwriting, because she's one of the most well-known and well-respected songwriters. She's often worked with Casey Musgraves, and her album 12 Stories is kind of this iconic moment of Nashville songwriting greatness. But what I really like about the songwriting here is that it's very heartfelt and deep and never just cutesy. A great example is one called Pawn Shop, where she is seeing these objects in a pawn shop that represent a lost dream, whether that's a ring or someone that put their guitar there, and now it's just sitting in a pawn shop.
It ain't stolen, it ain't hot. Someone told me it cost
Like, that's a cute conceptual song that gets to a way deeper statement about the passage of time. There's also a great breakup theme running through the whole record, whether she's angry and telling someone to take a long walk off a short pier, or whether she is kind of questioning herself and her past relationship and saying, I want to be who you thought I was. Or in a more self-loathing moment, she says that if your life is a record, I'll be the sad song. Like, I'll be that track that you look back on and it's really depressing. And that's kind of how she's viewing what her role was in this relationship. At number 5 is Hardy's A Rock.
Till then, give heaven some hell.
I'll be honest with you, I debated, should I put this high on the list? Will I lose respect as a critic? And then I was like, bro, you ain't trying to get respect, you're trying to be honest. And if I honestly reflect on what did I listen to a ton, whether it was in my car, whether it was at the gym, it was Hardy's A Rock, because I think this is the best version of what bro country could be. And I have a whole video essay about that. But the writing on this is excellent, and I don't want you to hear me calling it bro country-ish as a slam. I think it perfectly melds an energetic, rocking, heart-pumping or fist-pumping sound with great imagery, great lyrics, and a real sort of fun appreciation for Southern bro life. I mean, unapologetically, Country as Hell is the best version of a truck song we're ever going to hear, but the song Truck is also a pretty creative spin on truck songs where he's thinking about all the different things that you can surmise about a person just by looking at his truck.
If it's covered up in red mud with the worn out warm winds, there's a good...
And there's so much clever lyricism on this album, whether it's songs like One Beer or the title track, A Rock, where he uses that one image in an evolving chorus throughout the song. Sometimes this album feels really raucous and rowdy, other times it feels super romantic and sweet, but it's always charming. And I will say, Joey Moy, who produced it, you might know him for producing Florida Georgia Line, now with Hardy and Larry Fleet's albums that he produced this year, that guy is on a freaking roll. And it turns out that his kind of aggressive production choices go down a lot easier when I'm enjoying the words that go with them. This album by Hardy has stuck with me this whole last few months, I think because I'm going through this journey of trying to get unpretentious, leave my media past in the past, and actually, relate to the real world and not sit here in an ivory tower and pick apart like some snooty intellectual every aspect of culture. And this album is incredibly unpretentious, and I truly vibed with it, so I just leaned in. I don't know why I told you all that, but that's the truth. Number 4 is Ashley McBryde's Never Will.
It's just a room key. You ain't gotta lie to me.
Once you have your big debut album, there's always fear that there's going to be what's called the sophomore slump for your follow-up, and Ashley McBryde avoided that completely and delivered a stellar, rocking, beautiful, belty, incredible album with Never Will this year. I mean, talk about unpretentious music. Ashley McBryde is so unpretentious. She's so plain-spoken and humorous and kind of sassy but real, and it's completely disarming. This album simultaneously has a naughty side and a really solemn side, and I think that's part of what makes it great. On the naughty side, you have songs like One Night Standards, where she just tells someone to use her like she's using him. She also has a song called Shut Up, Sheila, where she's sort of telling off a judgy religious woman in her town. And then there's my favorite track on the record, Martha Divine, which is a unique murder ballad because it's about the daughter of a guy that's cheating, killing his girlfriend on behalf of her mom, if that makes sense. Did you follow all that?
But the Bible doesn't say a damn thing about your daddy's lover.
But then you do have these serious, heartfelt moments, stuff like Stone and stuff like Sparrow. Man, the vocal on Sparrow is beautiful. And then also the title track, Never Will, where she says she's not going to change now that she has this success. And so it's like the girl going nowhere has become a girl that got somewhere. And this album is kind of her planting her flag and being like, I'm here to stay and I'm not going to change. And it's awesome. Before we get started, I wanted to share my honorable mentions, things that almost made the list, but for whatever reason, they just weren't in my very top 10. But I think there's something of value in all of these. Wade Bowen and Randy Rogers' Hold My Beer Volume 2 was a happy slice of Texas country. Jesse Daniels' Rollin' On made the Bakersfield sound feel super fresh. The Hot Country Nights' The K is Silent took middle school bathroom humor and set it to genuinely beautiful 90s country sounds. Brett Eldridge's Sunday Drive was winsome, soulful, and surprising. Lori McKenna's The Balladeer featured her trademark songwriting on hopeful and haunting songs about domestic life. Zach Bryan's Elizabeth featured the aggression and romance of young manhood. Those were the 5 that were probably closest to making the cut, but then I also had all of these on the list. Jason Isbell's Reunions, Jamie Wyatt's Neon Cross, Kip Moore's Wild World, Coulter Wall's Western Swing and Waltzes, and then surprisingly to me, also Luke Bryan's Born Here, Live Here, Die Here, and Kelsey Ballerini's Kelsey. Both those albums were definitely on the poppier side of the country spectrum, but they both stuck with me for a surprising amount of time this year and featured a lot of really good songs. At number 3 is the Panhandlers' self-titled debut album.
I am just a man in the middle of this band.
The Panhandlers are a Texas supergroup made up of Josh Abbott from the Josh Abbott Band, William Clark Green, John Bauman, and Cleto Cordero from Flatland Cavalry. They put themselves together into this band called the Panhandlers, referencing the Panhandle of Texas, and then they went and made a whole album just about West Texas and kind of their friendship and about the area. And what I love about the album is there is no album I heard this year that gives you a more evocative sense of place. You will feel like you are in the middle of a desert surrounded by trailers with tumbleweeds blowing by you when you listen to this album.
Sending farmers into deeper debt and ranchers to the grave, where towers mark the end of time with slowly spinning blades.
I mean, the song West Texas in My Eye, which was written by Charlie Stout, who's not in the band, is worth the price of admission alone, where they're singing about the dust and wind out in West Texas, and he says, "I'm not crying, that's West Texas in my eye." That lyric is so freaking brilliant, and those are all through this album. Panhandle Slim is a song about a cowboy out on the plains, has words like jackalope and crabapple and prickly pear. Every inch of these lyrics is just filled with imagery, and it's all the imagery of West Texas. You got a song about the Caprock, you got songs about cactus flowers, it's all there. And then there's a fun energy on it too, where you get the camaraderie of the guys. They're on a track like These Are My Friends. They almost have a breakdown, kind of like the S Club party moment where S Club 7 all introduce themselves. There's a reference from 2000. And that same fun is on songs like No Handle. This album came out of The Next Waltz, that outfit kind of out in Texas that just keeps cranking out great music. I freaking love this record. It has stuck with me all year long. At number 2 is Chris Stapleton's Starting Over.
It don't matter to me wherever we are, where I wanna be.
It's hard to imagine getting a better mainstream country album than you get with this one, because there is something for everyone here. There are songs that are detailed but also feel broad enough for the public to engage with in a big way. I always compare Chris Stapleton to Adele because I feel like their releases have a really similar energy.
But I'm going to do a cover now by a band called The Steel Drivers.
Stapleton blew up with Traveler, and you hear on this album that he clearly wrestled a little bit with the fame and attention of that on the final track, Nashville, Tennessee.
So long, Nashville, Tennessee, you can't have what's left.
But it feels like after his 2 From A Room albums, he kind of took a step back and was like, let's make a true follow-up, and damn did he. There is a deep bench of excellent songs on this record, and I imagine that they are going to be on the radio for like 2 years. I just feel like there are a ton of hits waiting to happen, and they all feature Stapleton's huge, growly, belting, amazing voice. You've got this kind of sinister breakup moment with the song Cold. You've got some Southern rock euphoria on Arkansas. You Should Probably Leave is a sexy, smooth jam. And then Maggie's Song, which is a country song about a dog. And I said in my review of the album that you always hear that as a punchline, but I can't actually think of that many country songs about dogs, but that will make anyone cry, even cat people. Which I am, so no judgment. The sound is great, the voice is great, the songs are great. It's just a great album, I promise you. If you have a friend that doesn't think they like country music, just show them this because they'll have heard of his name and they'll actually give it a listen. But now it's time for the number 1 album, and my very favorite album of this year, and you guys are not going to be that surprised if you're a loyal viewer of the channel, is Gabe Lee's Honky Tonk Hell.
Lord knows I've never been afraid of that. I just can't stand the thought of coming clean.
There was a part of me that was like, is this too stereotypical? I have been talking about this album and standing Gabe Lee all year, but I was like, it's just the truth of the matter. This is my favorite album of the year. Now, I loved Gabe Lee's original, Farmland. It was this very sort of almost Bob Dylan-y, acoustic, folky record. But I feel like on Honky Tonk Hell, he really built out the music so much more. You got some rollicking piano, the guitars are bigger, there's just a lot more musical diversity on this album. Now it's sort of like folk with attitude. Independent country fans love the title track of this record.
Now Honky Tonk Hell is a hell of a place. They got a big old dance room hall. The seats reserved for all the folks down in Nashville, writing phony ass country songs.
But for the most part, this is a really heartfelt, plaintive record with true poetry as songwriting. Gabe has such a unique writing style. It almost feels like free verse of these little details that are dropped all throughout the songs, and then pretty often a fully evolving chorus with the same melody but totally different words than the chorus before it. On the song Piece of Your Heart, I remember he mentions a cold cup of coffee in a U-Haul. There's the word shit canned in that song. He talks about lactose and migraines. Just all these different words that put you in different mindsets and try and keep you following the story. It reminds me a little bit of how Taylor Swift has been writing on her last 2 records. This album just feels so alive. Gabe is pretty lovesick in it. He's kind of chasing girls here and there. There's a song called Heartbreak or Smile. But this album's also just about life, and it's about how we're having trouble getting through it. We all are doing so 30 seconds at a time. And there's a big soulful moment called Great Big River, and you get the big piano and the swell.
Great big river, while she's blue, Lord, wash them away. Great big river.
It's a gospel feel to it as he wants his pain kind of taken away. My favorite song on the record is one called Imogene, and it's also one of the most mysterious, where he seems to be trying to work out some of his demons, some of his heartbreak in some town called Imogene. But by the end of the song, he's saying, I'm never going back there. That is a pure, simple little song. Him and a guitar, and it's Gabe at his best. I love the way he delivers things. He has such power in his voice, and he kind of has this a little bit, I did that facial expression, this little bit snarly way of kind of, he's irascible as a vocalist. And I find it so fun and conversational and exciting. So I love this album. I could talk about it for a million years, and I have talked about it cumulatively for a million years this year, but it's my favorite record of the year. I think you should check it out, Honky Tonk Hell by Gabe Lee. So that's it, guys. Those are my top 10 albums of the year. Like I said, just my opinion. I would love to know yours in the comments down below. If you like any of these, or if you feel like I missed out on something, tell me your favorite down in the comments, and stay tuned for a bunch more year-end stuff coming up on the channel soon. Bye, y'all.